Anyway, I didn't crash the car. The spot I'd chosen, which was a large brick wall at the bottom of the hill, the day I'd chosen to do it, there was traffic coming up the other way, and so the opportunity passed. So it made me stop and think, and the counselling course helped in that. I was able to use some of the contact time with the tutor and discuss things that were going through my mind. And then one of the other students, said, well, why do you stay? Light bulb moment. Why did I stay? And it never occurred to me that I had a right to leave. So here I was at a stage where elder son had got married, younger son was at home, husband was at home. I'd got a job, didn't pay hugely, but found a flat.
I should say your son was we say younger son, just to tell the viewers, your son was in his 20s, your younger son, so they were grown up, weren't they, at this point?
22, and Simon was 23.
And you were about 45, and your husband was 72?
46, 47, and he was 74.
He was 74, and you were 40, and you were only 47?
Yes, there was 27 years between us. Yeah. And the flat. Couldn't summon up the courage to explain in person. His habit was to go around to the local pub and have a couple of hours of drink at lunchtime. So I drove him round there, gave him a lift round there, came back, loaded a few bits and pieces in the car, left some notes, some letters I'd prepared earlier, and drove off to my flat. So he was sitting in the pub waiting for me to turn up, and I didn't. So the following day, they found out where I was. I told somebody that they knew. And we did have a few meetings after that, but they were so critical. It was all my fault. It was all three of them. Right. It was all my fault. I'd not been the wife they wanted or the mother they wanted or expected, and I'd done dreadful things like pay more attention to other people rather than to them. They'd felt that all my attention should be devoted to them. So it was not where I wanted to be. I knew I had more to give.
I'll add in a little bit for the viewers, because Liz is trying to make her life so concise within 30 minutes in this interview. But she told me earlier she was nearly killed by a juggernaut, and she survived by an inch. She told the family, got back home, but within a matter of few minutes, they're still going, "But where's our tea? Where's dinner?" So you were
ludicrous, isn't it? Yeah. They felt I was exaggerating.
Right. Yeah.
And when I tried, this was after I'd left, when I tried to explain how depressed I was and how suicidal I'd become, they told me I was making it up. My husband said he would be prepared to have me back if I got down on my knees and begged him to, and then saw the psychiatrist I so obviously needed. So with great restraint, I didn't throw anything at him. It just shows we were by that time, totally on different wavelengths. And there wasn't anything in common.
And he passed away 2 years later, didn't he?
He did, 2 years later. I didn't divorce. I didn't intend to. I'd left him. It was his house. I'd never been joint owner or anything. So I left him. He was in his house. I didn't take anything with me other than a few possessions. And I think I'd got £45 in the bank and started again.
And you were married to him for 27 years. And
25 years. 25 years. It was just 3 weeks before the silver wedding.
Right.
So I didn't feel I'd taken anything away other than the skivvy that they all thought I was. And I wasn't. So started off, had a lot of support from the tutor from the counselling course. and a couple of gay friends, huge support from them, and another tutor from the college. And those were the only people who knew what I was planning to do.
What was it like in those early days when you'd made that break?
Scary. Absolutely scary, because, well, for one thing, I got loads of time. But what helped with that was I discovered the power of writing things down.
Right.
Had to keep a journal for the counselling course, so I carried on with that, and that was a huge help. And then I had to try and find myself, find out who I really was, and I started joining groups and things locally, because I'd moved into an area where there was lots of alternative stuff going on.
Okay.
And I found like-minded people, and I think that's one of the big things that you have to do when you move into a totally different situation. Make sure you've got contact with like-minded people. I remember going to a women's group for the first time and sort of feeling very shamefaced about admitting I'd moved away from home.
Really? And this is in the 80s. This is like mid-80s, isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, moved out of a marriage, and there was a yippee! And they all applauded. She struck a blow for her own freedom, and it was like that.
Were you not expecting that then?
No.
Okay.
I was expecting criticism every way I looked. So I was.
Isn't it amazing how quickly times have changed in 20 years?
Yes. So, you know, where I'd moved from, I mean, it was a shameful thing to do. The family, you know, the larger family didn't approve. I was treated like the scapegoat and the black sheep of, and all the rest of the epithets. So I distanced myself. The contact grew less and less. I was the one keeping in touch. They weren't keeping in touch with me. So it dwindled. It really dwindled. So I had two sons who definitely didn't approve of me. And then when my husband died, you know, there was that level of contact severed. My stepson died a few years after that. So, yes, and I had 4 grandchildren who I think I met each of them once in the first few years of their lives. And it was not easy making that transition, because you hope for different things. You don't necessarily expect, but you hope for some response.
Right.
And so, yeah, I worked on myself a lot. But I also started exploring healing in different shapes and forms. There was massage and reflexology and cerebral things like I Ching readings, psychology connected with, well, as an ongoing process connected with the counselling course.
Yeah.
So a lot of time to spend and a lot of things to fill it with.
And a growing spiritual awakening at that time.
Yeah.
Because you weren't at all spiritual. Liz is very, very spiritual, one of the most spiritual people that I know, really. But there was sort of, from your 40s onwards, it became sort of
very much. I mean, it was so much what I wanted to do. It really, really was. And when you realise that things pieced together from your past that were pointers to the direction that you know, somebody has mapped out for you on a spiritual level, then the more you get into it,